Ed Kranepool insists he is not selling his World Series ring, the one he won during his 18 years with the Mets. Everything else, however, must go. Kranepool's decision to sell off his extensive collection of baseball memorabilia, including items signed by Stan Musial, Joe DiMaggio, and Willie Mays, comes at a tough time. A former first baseman, Kranepool, 73, is confronting serious health issues as well as a continuing rift with the only major league team he ever played for. The health problems Kranepool has lived with diabetes for much of his life have led to the amputation of all the toes on his left foot and left him awaiting a kidney transplant that he hopes will take place early next year. The rift has left Kranepool wondering if a sympathetic phone call from the Mets owners will ever come. But amid all the physical pain and disappointment, Kranepool endures, much as he did in carving out a long career in New York as a player with modest abilities. And he adamantly disputes any notion that he is parting with his memorabilia because he needs to defray his medical costs. "I'm not destitute, and we're not having a fire sale here," he said in the basement of his handsome Long Island home, which sits in a gated community about 20 miles from the former site of Shea Stadium, where he played. Then why is he selling? "I just don't have space for it," he said. "There's no more space on the walls, and my closets are full. I've given so much away to my kids and grandkids that they can't take any more. So now, I'd rather the fans have it." The fans, at least those of an older generation, remember Kranepool well, even if he will never get near a plaque in Cooperstown. Nearly 40 years after he left the majors, Kranepool still holds the record for most games in a Mets uniform. The record is in no danger of being broken anytime soon. Along the way, he also amassed the most pinch hits in franchise history, 90. Somewhat less notably, he also holds the team record for double plays grounded into, 138, and outs made, 4,276, but that's what happens when you play for one team as long as he did. It took until 2012 for David Wright to eclipse Kranepool's hits total of 1,418 and move into the top spot on the Mets' career list. "I had a 30-year slump," Kranepool joked, "and David caught me." Perhaps the most distinctive part of Kranepool's resume is that, as a Met, he went from the ridiculous 120 losses in 1962, to the sublime, a World Series title in 1969, in less than a decade. And then, for good measure, he stuck around for another decade. How then can a player who is truly Mets royalty, who was playing for Casey Stengel when he was just 17 years old, end up on the outs with the franchise? According to Jay Horwitz, the Mets' longtime spokesman, the trouble stems from a remark that Kranepool made perhaps 5 or 6 years ago to Jeff Wilpon, the Mets' chief operating officer and the son of Fred Wilpon, the team's principal owner. The remark, Horwitz said, came during an annual team dinner and apparently occurred during the period when the Mets, under serious financial pressure because of their involvement in the Bernard Madoff fraud scheme, were looking to recruit investors to buy a minority stake in the club. As Horwitz tells it, Ed approached Jeff in front of a lot of people and said, "I hear you are selling shares in your team.